To some breaking news now. And a group of soldiers in the West African state of Benin say they have seized power from President Patrice Talon. The group, which called itself the Military Committee for Refoundation, announced the apparent coup on Benin state television, claiming that they had ousted President Talon. But his office is indicating now that the situation is under control. Talon was in power for a decade and he was due to step down next April after the next presidential election.
West Africa has once again entered a tense moment in its political history. The breaking news out of Benin has stunned many observers, not because the region is unfamiliar with such events, but because Benin was widely perceived as one of the more stable political environments in the sub-region. Yet in the early hours of today, reports emerged of an attempted coup targeting President Patrice Talon. According to political analyst Adama, speaking from Ghana but close to the Benin border, the situation unfolded rapidly. Military forces launched an attack on the president's residence in Cotonou, with heavy gunfire reported around the area. Shortly afterward, a group of soldiers appeared on national television, claiming they had removed President Talon from power and were establishing what they called a Salvation Organization Committee to take control of the state. What stands out is that the news did not entirely shock the political class in the region. Benin, despite its outward image of stability and economic progress, has been experiencing deep political tension for several years. Several opposition figures remain imprisoned under Talon's administration, and critics have long accused the government of restricting political participation and suppressing dissent in ways that undermine true democratic competition. To understand today's attempted coup, one must look back at the political landscape President Talon helped shape. While Benin recorded significant progress in infrastructure and economic reform during his tenure, political pluralism suffered. The exclusion of key opposition leaders, especially those linked to former President Thomas Boniyayi, created widespread resentment. These tensions simmered beneath the surface, largely ignored by the international community until they erupted today. Talon had already announced he would not run in the 2026 to 2027 presidential election, naming his finance minister, Romuald Wadagni, as his preferred successor. For many Beninese citizens, however, this announcement did not inspire confidence in a genuine political transition. Instead, it was widely perceived as a Putin-Medvedev-style arrangement, where a new leader is installed as a figurehead while the outgoing president continues to wield influence from behind the scenes. This perception contributed to fears of a managed, controlled transition rather than a free and open democratic process. For sections of the military, this was apparently enough fuel for action, whether justified or not. Benin is no stranger to coups. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, military interventions were frequent, culminating in the rise of Mathieu Kérékou, who ruled for decades until the country's historic national conference in 1990 restored democratic governance. For over 30 years, Benin was celebrated as a model of democratic stability. But recent years have redrawn that image, revealing a country dragged into the familiar traps of personalized power, weakened institutions, and shrinking democratic space. Political analyst Adama noted that this attempted coup does not occur in isolation. West Africa has recorded several military takeovers in recent years: Mali, Guinea, Burkina Faso, Niger, and most recently Guinea-Bissau's attempted mutiny. The ECOWAS bloc, once seen as a guardian of constitutional order, has struggled to address the root causes: poverty, inequality, corruption, election manipulation, governance failures, and elite domination of political systems. These are not merely episodic crises. They represent a structural issue in West African governance: the appearance of democracy without the substance of democratic accountability.
Adama, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us what you know here.
Okay, what we know is that in neighboring Benin, because I'm very close to Benin, I'm speaking to you from Ghana, military attacked the house of the president, who is Mr. Patrice Talon, and there were heavy gunfire shot against his house. And we saw also some military who spoke on a television in Benin, Cotonou, the capital, and they said that the president was ousted and replaced by a military with the establishment of a Salvation Organization Committee to take over the reign of the country. The problem is, this is not something that surprised anybody, because we have been hearing a lot of tension in that country. Some of the opposition members have been arrested for years and maintained in jail by the president in place, Talon. And also there is a process towards the new election next year or 2027 to replace him in power. He has already designated somebody to take over from him, from his party, his current Minister of Finance, who is Mr. Romuald Wadani, and he had managed to eliminate key people from the leading opposition party of former President Mr. Yayi Boni. So there was really a lot of tension within the country, and even there had been a coup attempt by close friends of the outgoing president. So nobody is surprised that the military came out and tried to do this attempted coup.
The soldiers involved in today's attempted coup claim to have appointed Lieutenant Colonel Pascal Tigré as the new transitional leader. Little is known about him, and Adama confirmed that his name had not previously appeared in mainstream political speculation. His sudden emergence fits a familiar pattern in West African coup history, where relatively unknown officers step into national leadership roles during moments of crisis. Benin's past includes moments where power was shared through a triumvirate, or where military officials seized power only to later return the country to civilian rule. This cyclical pattern is resurfacing, but what remains unclear is whether this attempt will succeed. As of the latest reports, loyalist forces still hold significant ground, and the situation is fluid. If this attempted coup fails, it still sends a message. The political tension in Benin is deeper than many realized, and the public appetite for genuine reform cannot be ignored. The attempted coup in Benin underscores the fragility of political systems across the region. At the heart of the matter, as Adama emphasized, is the absence of genuine democracy. Elections alone are not enough. If citizens cannot freely express dissent, if opposition figures are barred or jailed, if institutions are manipulated to consolidate power, then the foundations of democracy weaken, leaving space for military intervention. ECOWAS is expected to convene a high-level summit to address the crisis in Guinea-Bissau, and today's developments in Benin will now force their way into that agenda. But unless the bloc confronts the deeper governance issues, not just condemning coups, but also condemning rigged elections, political repression, and elite manipulation, the cycle will only continue. West Africa is at a crossroads. The region can either recommit to real democracy, rooted in constitutionalism and equality, or continue drifting into repeated periods of instability. Whether or not the attempted coup in Benin succeeds, the political message behind it is already clear. Citizens and segments of national institutions no longer trust the democratic processes that have been presented to them. This crisis is not about one president. It is about a governance model that must evolve. Benin's future remains uncertain at this moment, but the events of today will have a profound impact on how West Africa understands leadership, transitions of power, and the legitimacy of state institutions in the years ahead.